right, guys, welcome back to Revive School. Here we are, lesson 12, Job 17 and 18. Now, Kevin, go ahead, just get it out of your system. You want to?
It's Bildad.
Bildad, this is his second speech. His first one was in Job 8. And basically what he's saying is Job, you got to come to your senses. And so if you would, join me here. I'm gonna go to verses 1 and 2. Look, he says, Then Bildad the Shuhite replied, How long until you stop talking? Show some sense, and then we can talk. Who talks more? Is it Job that's talking more, or is it the friends? Because it seems to me both of them are articulating, you talk too much. They call each other windbags, blowhards, and then what else do they call each other? Just shut up and stop talking. So it's just what was our word? Loquacy? That's what we see here is everybody just responds without any love, any listen, any discernment. What do? They just go straight for the response. And so what you're going to see in the first 4 verses, and Constable articulates it well, I don't know how else you can, and it's kind of a theme as we start off, Bildad's criticism of Job. You know, they don't like each other's attitude, they're disappointed.
I don't understand. It's 3-1. How can they say Job talks too much?
It's a great point. All I know is he just says, look, when are you going to stop talking? Hello? When are you going to stop talking? And Job, what is it? He does the same. I mean, Kevin, go to Job 19:2. I love Job 19:2 because we'll get to this tomorrow. This is what Job says. How long will you torment me and crush me with words? We haven't even got to that, but it's just like, oh, dear Lord, shut this guy up. Why do they keep talking? This is the mentality. Nobody even cares for each other. So now in verse 3, here you go. Now this is Bildad. Bildad's mad. Okay, he's mad because he feels like Job called him cattle. Why are we regarded as cattle, as stupid in your sight?
Could have called them sheep.
Let's go to Job 12, 7 through 9. Let's do a blast from the past. Let's just see why he's still holding on to this. Bildad is still mad. Job 12, 7 through 9. But ask the animals, and they will instruct you. Ask the birds of the sky, and they will tell you. Verse 8. Or speak to the earth, and it will instruct you. Let the fish of the sea inform you. Verse 9. Which of these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? So he's comparing them to animals. And Bildad's mad. He said, why are we counted as beasts? I actually resent the fact that you called me this. And in verses 3 through 4, Bildad actually begins to become scornful. He doesn't appreciate being called an animal. And he doesn't appreciate being leveled to the stupidity. Didn't we talk yesterday, you guys, about what Job called them, worthless doctors, and then that's where, Kevin, you came up with swamp monsters, and, all of these, and now here we go again. What do you know? Why are you calling me stupid cattle? Kevin, they didn't say idiots.
They could have been sheep.
It could have been sheep. So my point is, right now, it's this ongoing banter. And then in verse 4, this is what Bildad says, You who tear yourself in anger, should the earth be abandoned on your account, or a rock be removed from its place? And so here what you're going to see is in 1 through 4, sarcasm. Okay? There's just a little bit, a hint of sarcasm with a little bit of more sarcasm. And what it does is it switches, and I think this is really kind of key, sarcasm to fear. So what you have in Bildad's approach is he goes from the ha-ha funny jokes to I want to create and instill fear into Job, which it actually changes how you communicate with people. This just becomes a little bit more serious. And so what you're going to see is in 5 through 20 is you're going to see Bildad's warning, and you know where we're going with this, concerning the wicked. Well, who's the wicked?
It's the insinuated Job.
Job's been called wicked all the time. And so what you're going to see is 4 pictures of death. Now we saw judgment, did we not? In reference to the wicked, we saw these 7 lists and then these 8 lists. Now Bildad gives a warning towards the wicked, which is really towards Job, of 4 pictures of death. So in verse 5, that's where we're going to go, in verses 5 through 21. Here's what you're going to see. Yes, the light of the wicked is extinguished. Okay, so the light is put out. Okay, so the light is put out. Warren Wiersbe describes 4 pictures. So the first one is, yes, the light of the wicked is extinguished. The flame of his fire does not glow. The light in his tent grows dark, and the lamp beside him is put out. So it's pretty straightforward. But the 4 pictures of death, when referencing and talking to Job, he's saying, hey, dude, your light's going to go out. And he gives a couple illustrations. The flame of his fire, the light in his tent grows dark, and the lamp beside him is put out. So 4 different illustrations of a light going out. The light of the wicked is extinguished. It does not glow. It grows dark, and it's put out. Well, he says this is for the wicked. Just a couple images here of the light. Go to Proverbs 20, verse 27, please. Proverbs 20, verse 27. It's interesting. It says, the Lord's lamp sheds... Oh, all right, let's go with yours. A person's breath is the lamp of the Lord, searching the innermost parts. And so this image of light, lamp, meaning if it's out, so is your life. That's kind of an interesting correlation. A person's breath is the lamp of the Lord. Why don't we go to Acts 17, verse 25. Acts 17, verse 25. Again, this is Bildad, a friend who's telling the wicked, a.k.a. Job, his light's going to go out. Now watch this in reference. Now you just heard that the breath is the lamp of the Lord. Neither is he served by human hands as though he has needed anything, since he himself gives everyone life and breath and all things. And then it goes to verse 28. Scripture says, for in him we live and move and exist. And even as some of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. So if the breath is the lamp of the Lord and the Lord's in charge of the breath, well, here's what he's saying. The Lord's going to take it out. Let's go to verse 7 if we can. That's one image of death. Interesting enough, when I think of light, I think of Jesus says, I am the light of the world. I actually don't think of light as the death side. I think of light as life-giving. You know, wouldn't you agree?
Well, yeah, but it's basically saying your light's going to be extinguished, so you're going to die.
Because he's obviously done something wrong to deserve all of this.
Right.
Yeah, all of it. Everything he's done, he's brought it on himself. Which he does have. Verse 7 says, his powerful stride is shortened, and his own schemes trip him up. So another component of image of death is a traveler that's trapped. Okay? And you're going to see that specifically even in verses 7 through 10. The light is going to be in verses 5 through 6. His powerful stride is shortened, and his own schemes seem to trip him up. Interesting, there's 6 different Hebrew synonyms for nets and traps. Okay, so what you actually see is a net. You're going to see this in the language coming up. I just want you to be aware of this. You're going to see a net, a snare, a trap, a robber, a snare, a trap. So a traveler is trapped. 6 different Hebrew synonyms. All right, so if you would, let's keep going to verse 8. For his own feet, this is the traveler, his own feet led him into a net, and he strays into its mesh. A trap catches him by the heel, a noose seizes him, a rope lies hidden for him on the ground, and a snare waits for him along the path. So what do you see here? You see, interesting enough, a picture of death that, what would you say? The traveler, he walked into it himself, Kevin. Everything it does is he walked into himself. And so what Bildad is trying to do, he's trying to create an image of fear that's going to lead to, death. It's going to lead to death. I think it's interesting. Wiersbe says this, fear is a normal human emotion. There's nothing actually wrong with fear. Hang in here for a second. Fear of sickness, injury, or death actually teaches children to wash their hands, to stray away from power lines, and to look before crossing the street. Fear actually causes people to buy insurance, to do physical checkups, kind of interesting. But the fear that Bildad is trying to instill is to create a fear of death like there's no hope. So do you ever think, what do you think about Wiersbe's comments, you guys? Do you actually think there is an aspect of fear that can be good?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you said, like I'm not going to go across the railroad tracks or play on them if there's a train coming. It's way bigger than I am.
And so what he's trying to give an image to Job is hey, like this fear image of your light is going to go out. You're going to get trapped into this context. And then in verses 11 through 14, here's what he does. He talks about a criminal pursued. It's going to be in verses 11 through 15. You know, everybody has different communication methods. Bildad's is to create fear. Bildad's is to point him to all of this is going to lead to death. Now look, in verse 11, terror frightens him on every side and harass him at every step. His strength is depleted. Disaster lies ready for him to stumble. Verse 13, parts of his skin are eaten away. Death's firstborn consumes his limbs. Now watch this in verse 14. He is ripped from the security of his tent and marched away to the king of terrors, and nothing he owned remains in his tent. Burning sulfur is scattered over his home. Guys, are you with me on this one? This is a hard one. What's he trying to paint a picture of, Kevin, with this criminal?
Basically, he's taking everything that's important to you.
The criminal, quote unquote, is coming to rip everything away from you. Correct? I mean, that's what you're saying. Absolutely. And to the point where it says, and marched away to the king of terrors. Now, this king of terrors, okay, there's a lot there. The king of terrors in multiple illustrations can just simply be defined as death. Okay, so he's coming to rob you and to take you and take you away to death. I mean, this is death. It's terrors of what it brings about. But at the same time, it could be Satan. Some have said that this person is being marched away to Satan. Again, I'm just giving you images here. Death or Satan, or I just thought I'd throw out another one. Like there's another option out there? According to John Burns, there is. It says there's a reference to an individual called Namtar, Namtr. This is the only thing you'll remember out of this whole lesson. In reference to Namtar, who was a Mesopotamian god of pestilence, and a person of the underworld. So it would have been a false god that they would have referenced. They wouldn't have identified him maybe as Satan. They wouldn't have identified him maybe as death, but maybe he was one of the false gods that they worshiped, Namtar.
Help me understand something though. Like this, Bildad's trying to tell him these are all the things that are going to happen to him because Job has some quote unquote hidden sin. But haven't these things already happened to him?
I mean, I don't think they have all happened though. Like his light hasn't gone out. So he hasn't died.
Physically, you're right, yeah. The only thing that's lacking is his death. But his house has been pretty much taken away from him. His land has been taken away from him. His cattle, his livestock has been taken away from him. Obviously, his family has been taken away from him. I guess his wife is still alive, right?
She's nowhere to be found, but yes. I mean, these are great points, absolutely. Okay, well, those are 3 illustrations of death. Bildad is just trying to, hey, well, if you're not afraid of the dark, well, maybe then what if you got trapped? Or if that doesn't work, what if you got robbed? Like, he's just trying every single angle. And then, interesting enough, he takes another one. Now, watch this in verse 16. And the other image, you guys, is a tree will be rooted up. Now, Kevin, why would this one speak to Job, you think?
Was it Job that talked about even a stump has potential to regrow?
That's right. So then he says a tree is rooted up. So he's trying to say there's no hope in any of this stuff. And so he says his roots below dry up and his branches above wither away. So everything below and above completely gone. I mean, so he's really trying to integrate some fear. Go to Job 14, 7 and 8, if you would, please. Job 14, 7 and 8. Yep, Kevin, you're absolutely right in what you're saying. Job 14, 7 and 8 says there's hope for a tree. This is Job. If it's cut down, it will sprout again, and its shoots will not die. Verse 8, if its roots grow old in the ground and its stump starts to die in the soil, well, it continues on into verse 9, the smell of water make it thrive and produce twigs like a sapling. In other words, it's still going to keep happening. So what does Bildad do? Bildad comes in and says, hey, your roots are dried up. Your branches above wither away. So he's trying to contradict Job's words. This is always what's happening in Job 14. And then look at this. All memory of him perishes from the earth. And it says he has no name anywhere. So why is this verse 17 tied to 16? Because, sorry for the obvious, the family tree image. I mean, this family tree, there's no hope for a family tree because if nobody even remembers who he is and he's already removed from his descendants, I mean, you're ultimately saying, and I really like what Wiersbe says, a divine curse is on his family. So, okay, fine. Don't worry about the light. Don't worry about being trapped. Don't worry about the robber. But, oh, by the way, you'll have no legacy. Nothing. In fact, nobody will even remember your name. That's exactly what he's saying here. Kind of an interesting image. Kind of I don't know. Which one would you guys rather die with? How would you rather die?
Somewhere away from these three.
And can you imagine, like, you know, you meet with Bildad one time and you're like, oh, he's just mad. But then you're like, hey, I want to talk to you again. And you're like, oh, gosh, not again.
He's being creative, at least.
Who, Bildad? Yeah, I mean, he's giving good images, right? He's creative. He's a good communicator. He says, you're going to die a couple ways. Light put out, traveler trapped, criminal pursued, or a tree rooted up. No, not the tree rooted up. You know, right? No. Let's do this. I want to read 18, 19, 20, 21. I want to go through this here. And then I'm going to come back and do a whole chart. Okay, because everybody loves charts, right? Because that's what this whole thing is about. Everything is about lists and charts in the book of Job, okay? So it says, all memory of him perishes from the earth. He has no name anywhere. And then it says he's driven from light to darkness and chased from the inhabited world. He has no children or descendants among his people, no survivor where he used to live. I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about there's no family heritage. And guess what? If I'm a friend, he's spitting in Job's face. You realize that, right? He's flat out saying, you have no kids in verse 19. You have no children. You have no descendants. Oh, and there's no survivor. You know, you always feel bad when you don't know somebody's situation and you just say, hey, how many kids do you have? And you're like, well, I had 3 and I lost 1, or I don't have any because I lost 2 kids. You know, like you don't know a person's background and you don't know what they've gone through. You don't know what their family's gone through, which, you know, for me, I feel like I'm a little bit more sensitive just because of what I saw Maya go through when she was really young. And man, it's hard when people go through this. So for a guy to come in and say, man, you got no kids. I mean, this guy's like, he's hitting below the belt and he's just like, I don't care. I'm going to go the cheap shot towards Job. You have no heritage. And then he says in verse 20, those in the west are appalled at his fate, while those in the east tremble in horror. It doesn't matter. Nobody likes the situation with Job. And indeed, such is the dwelling of the unjust man, the dwelling of the wicked. And this is the place of the one who does not know God. Whoa. Did he just go there? Did he just go there with Job? Yeah, I think he did. He said, where you could go, it's a dwelling of the unjust. It's a dwelling of the wicked. And oh, by the way, those people that go there, who do they not know? They do not know God. So did Bildad just jump off a cliff and go drastic on Job?
Kind of think so.
I think he totally did. I mean, I think he went so drastic. In fact, Bildad is refuting Job's allegations that Job's not ungodly. It's weird to me how Bildad believes the evidence that he has is actually legit evidence to accuse Job of these situations. And this is supposed to be applied to an unbeliever, and yet here he's saying you're...
But I mean, isn't that just kind of the point of this story, the dialogue, is that they only see things of what, quote unquote, they have the evidence thereof. But the reality is Job knows different deep down in his heart of hearts, and they can't see that, and they don't trust that even he believes that.
Man, that's a great point. My question is why does Job always keep countering back? Like, just because they're buddies and he feels like he can? Like, at some point you would just be like, dude, these guys they don't know what they're even talking about. Why even waste my time?
Maybe it's just an encouragement for him to verbalize these things out loud, what he's internally thinking.
All right, here's what I want to do. Remember I talked about these charts, and we're going to come back to death at the end. So here you have Eliphaz, right? And then you have, we've been talking about, we're on Bildad, right, Kevin? All right, so here you have these two guys, these 2 layers, okay? Now, watch this. This is really interesting, okay? So, and I like this. MacArthur spells this out. So they both describe the wicked. Eliphaz and Bildad both describe the wicked, okay? Now, this is totally going to be a chart, and it's going to sound very academic, but listen to this. Job 15, 22 through 23 and 30. Okay, he says that they're going to experience darkness. Okay, well, if you go to Job 18, verses 5 and 6 and 18, guess what he says? No, they're going to experience darkness. Okay, so here's the point. What you're going to see between Eliphaz and Bildad, it's almost like they use the same script. It's almost like we just talked about this. But I feel like this is how Job is getting hammered. And so what do you know? This is kind of funny. Go to Job 15, verse 30b. Okay, just at the end of verse 30. Job 15. I've been writing John up here. Job 15, 30b. Okay, now watch this. It says, he will not escape from the darkness. Flames will wither his shoots. Okay, so there's that emphasis. And then go to 32, if you would. It will be accomplished before his time. His branch will not flourish. Go to verse 33. He will be like a vine that drops its unripe grapes and like an olive tree that sheds its blossoms. So here you have unhealthy plants. Okay? So he says you're going to experience darkness. And oh, by the way, he describes them as plants. Go to Job 18, verse 16. Job 18, 16. His roots being dry up and his branches above wither away. So here's this image between Eliphaz and Bildad. Hey, you know what? If I say it one time, maybe you should say it again. And every time they're describing the wicked will experience darkness, they'll experience unhealthy plants. In Job 15, verse 30, guess what happens? They talk about fire. Job 15, verse 30, they talk about fire being destroyed by fire. Flames will wither his shoots, and by the breath of God's mouth he will depart. If you go to Job 18, verse 15. I'd love to tell you that there's more to this, but it's not, you guys. It is constant barrage of negativity towards Job. Burning sulfur is scattered over his house. Fire is going to bring destruction to your possessions and to your property. Job 15, 27 through 31 says you're going to lose their influence. You know, some have said, again, all theories, maybe Job was even like a prominent leader, a prominent city political person in the community. He's going to lose his influence. He's going to lose his popularity. And then that comes in Job 18 and then in Job 15. Okay, keep going here. In Job 15, verse 21, Kevin, it says they're going to be terrified by anguish. Okay, so they're going to be terrified by anguish. And in verse 24 as well. And I think you guys are seeing the pattern here. In Job 15 and Job 18, this is what's going to constantly be happening. They're basically saying the same thing. How do you, Rich, when somebody has said something negative to you, how do you get rid of it?
I guess it depends on what's said. Probably my initial reaction is want to just like verbally get back at them. But I think eventually for me, I just think about those things and I just have to take that thought captive and let it go.
So maybe there's your answer. You take every thought captive before the Lord. Kevin, you want to add anything? That's good, Rich.
Sometimes you have to not take it personally, just kind of let the water run off your back. But it's harder, I think, when it just constantly comes at you because pretty soon it penetrates the borders of the things you put up to defend that.
So, I mean, it's like if two people from your local church say, hey, Kevin, you're going to experience darkness. Then you hear it again later that day. Hey, Kevin, everything that you're going to grow, it's going to die. Oh, by the way, fire's coming, and you hear this twice. You're going to lose your influence. You hear this twice. You're going to be terrified by anguish. You hear this twice. And then, Rich, all of a sudden they start telling you you're going to lose your home, and you hear that twice. I mean, at some point, you would think the enemy could win. Like, in this battle of this constant negativity. And so, I feel like the reason I wanted to write these things down is eventually it's going to get to the point where you don't know God. Like, that's their goal. That's what they're saying. The wicked do not know God. And so they're going to get it again. You know the pattern, Job 18, Job 15. And I just want to simply say this, is that when you have your identity, I'm going to go New Testament for a second. When you have your identity as a child of God, when you have your identity in the Lord, all of these things could keep coming at you. But the reality is what are you holding on to? What is the anchor? And so Bildad's desire and goal is to bring destruction and death. So is Eliphaz's. Kevin, I think we've talked about this, but Satan is clearly using these friends as their minions. And so I think it's okay to say this. Satan can use humans to bring about his destruction.
Well, you hear how they're twisting Job's words even, I mean, that reminds me of the thoughts of how Satan attacks us. He takes things that are true and twists them just enough to make them lies.
Can you do me a favor? Go to 1 Corinthians 15:26. I want to wrap this up I don't know if you feel like the enemy's constantly throwing things at you, but I want to walk through what do we need to do, okay? In 1 Corinthians 15:26, the last enemy to be abolished is death. So here's what Wiersbe says. Death, with this verse in mind, is an enemy to be feared. Now watch this, hang on here. By all who are not prepared to die. Death is an enemy to be feared by all who are not prepared to die. If you hear all these negative comments, the fire, you're going to lose your home, you don't know the Lord, all these unhealthy things, darkness, yeah, you would be fearful if you don't have your identity and your trust in the Almighty. And what we see, you guys, honestly, I actually think Job's life is not much different than many of ours. I really think. I think the way he talks, I think the way he sounds it out with his friends, I think the internal struggle, I think is what so many of us experience. I actually think life throws us all this junk all the time. There's thousands of messages that the enemy sends to you every day to get you to fall. Every day. But if you go to John 5:24, Kevin, John 5:24. It says, I assure you, anybody who hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. Now watch this. And will not come under judgment, but has passed from death to life. If you have faith and belief in Christ, all of those comments don't mean anything. Nothing. You have actually, here it is, you have nothing to fear. In fact, death actually means life. It means you get to actually go home to be with, in John 14, it says you get to go home and be with the Father. I love this image. For some of us, we've fallen asleep on earth, but eventually in Acts 7 and in Philippians 1, we could wake up in heaven. We might be entering into a period of rest. We might be moving into a period of greater light, but death no longer means separation from God. It actually means eternal life with our Father. And so all of these things, the enemy is going to constantly try to bring and drag you down. I'm going to go back to that phrase, you guys, that we have. I really believe this is a setup for tomorrow's lesson. We have to hold on to the promised Redeemer, no matter what comes your way. All right, guys, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.